All it takes is one happy, satisfied customer for you to reach out and gather up new customers, new business, and a great fortune for your electrical contracting business. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Commercial Electrical Profits, and I want to share with you a simple plan to transform one satisfied customer into a whole network of extremely satisfied, top-paying customers. It starts first by finding that customer, that high-ticket customer who had a specific problem that can be easily used to identify other customers. And I'll give you a perfect example with a plumbing problem here. Actually, I have an electrical problem I can give you an example for. I live in an older home, and the breaker boxes have been layered on year after year. So originally the house, they put a breaker box in and had those little glass twisty types of things. This is a rental property I purchased. And then they added a sub panel. And then they took out some of the glass twisty things and they put in some other breakers. You have wires in the ceiling that have that fabric wrapping on it. You have new wires, and it is just a simple mess. Now, what do we know about this particular job? First off, it's an older home. Okay, we know what neighborhood it's in, and we know what kind of home it is, and we know what kinds of homes are typical. We know that I'm an affluent entrepreneur. I have the means to go ahead and have the breaker box replaced, and to have a surge suppressor put in, and to have the outside panels the outside connect all changed out, and to have the cable buried rather than running on the house. So we know that's the case too. And if you go outside, you'll see that one of the neighbors have done something similar. So just driving around the neighborhood, you can see that this was a problem with the older connecting wire to the house and the older wiring in the house. And finally, we know this was about a $9,000 job. Now, it was $9,000 because I also had additional outlets put in and the surge suppression system put in, and it was a 220 panel, I think it was. It was a much larger panel that had room for expansion because I had identified that I'm going to actually run rip the wiring out of this house. I personally am not going to rip the wiring out of the house, but I'm going to have them come back out. The part of the downstairs is unfinished, so we can access the whole upstairs by this and take out all that old wiring. So long story short, they've set me up with a system that includes the outside wiring, includes the outside connect, it includes a new breaker box, it included additional outlets in a workshop, it included the surge suppression and everything that was necessary. I think it was ground rods as well. Everything that was necessary to get this house in place. And then at the end of that, they say, who else do you know that needs this type of work? Well, I'm going to teach you right now a simple system that I've applied with clients that uses an endorsed mailing in order to find more customers, just like the customer that paid for the high ticket deal. So I paid about $9,000 for that deal. I also had some other stuff done too because we ran wiring for an HVAC system. But listen, if you've got one customer in the area, that's high probability that there are other customers. You take what you know about that customer, the location, the type of house, the situation that warranted the service or repair, and the characteristics, both behavioral and psychographic, of the individual. And then you get an endorsement from the individual, and you use that endorsement to reach out to other individuals just like them. Let me share the reason why. People buy from who they know, like, and trust. People also buy from those who help others just like them. So if you go out and help an affluent customer and you've delivered quality service, and that affluent customer is willing to do a video, to do a selfie with your technician. They're willing to write a brief testimonial. They're willing to do a lot of individual things. Now, I actually set up joint ventures with these vendors because I know how powerful this technique is and how it can increase hundreds of thousands of dollars in new business. But you do something to capture that moment, and rather than just going to the neighbor across the street, the neighbor behind the house, the neighbor next door on either side, you actually set up what's called an every door direct mail. So an every door direct mail would allow everybody on the street to get the same offer. Now, you can actually do an every door direct mail, or you can buy a mailing list that targets the individual. But I'm going to talk about every door direct mail specifically because it's the easiest for you to do. So let's get back in the scenario. This is an older home. Are there other older homes nearby that would need the same service? If the answer is yes, then that's a good note. You can use every door direct mail, and you can go down the street, you can go up the block, you can go around the corner, and you can share the good news of this customer who has solved a major problem in their home, and they want to recommend you as a services provider. Okay, you see how that works? Now you're going to have a follow-up campaign, which is going to remind them of the first campaign and then introduce a little bit more about the person and the neighborhood in which these solutions are done. So in this particular case, there are about 500 homes near this home where they put in the new breaker panel, including the one next door, which I also own, which I had a breaker panel replaced in it because of they have the same problem. But it's about 500 homes to choose from. How many of those homes do you think might take immediate action if they knew about the fire risk of these sub panels and sub panels? What if they understood how these old glass breakers had problems? What if they could tell the difference between a modern wiring and old wiring? What if you offered them a electric home safety review? Now, I don't like to call it an inspection. It's a review. It's a checklist. We're going to look at 5 safety factors that every home should be aware of. You're going to give them free little safety plugs that go in for children. You know, goes into the outlet. You're going to give them a little guide about what to do, but you're going to look for things like old breakers or test the breakers. You're going to look at things about ground fault. You're going to look at the outlets and see if the outlets are all working as they should. And then you can leave the customer with a punch list, and that punch list opens the door up to an opportunity to quote estimate. Now, I want to make sure you're understanding this, because very often you go out and do a job and the customer's just praising and your technicians go, thank you, I know I did a good job, appreciate it. And you as the owner never hear the story that the customer has. So you lost that opportunity to share that customer story. Of course, today with cell phones and they have cameras on them and audio and the opportunity for maybe a form that they just kind of sign and fill out, going beyond the Yelp review, going beyond the social media post, capture something that you can then send to their neighbors and the people around the area. Now, you do need to disclose that you're going to share this. So if you say, by the way, hey, I'm happy to hear that you're so satisfied and happy with what we've done for you today. Do you mind if we do a little quick video and I'll ask you a question and we'll just videotape your testimonial? You do need to have them sign a release. You can't just put them online. You got to have them sign a release, because that can cause problems later, especially if your cell phone has the GPS coordinates of the house in which your customer's located, and now you just told them how satisfied they are and how they want to protect their stereo equipment, and they're so happy that they got this new breaker box in place because they're going to start working on antique cars in their garage, and then they get robbed, and then now you get in trouble. See, so we're going to control this a little bit more than, hey, let's do a selfie, let's do a video, let's put it up on Facebook right now, and we're going to turn it into a real marketing campaign. And I really think that's the secret of it, is if you capture the testimonial and then you package it up in a real campaign and you use the photograph and you get the rights to use the photograph and you get the marketing release in order to actually do the campaign, you're going to go a lot further of being able to go to 500 homes or 1,000 homes and not have to worry about that customer coming back later and being a little upset. Now, a lot of these I see we arrange them so that the customer gets a spiff. The customer's going to get some kind of marketing consideration, or their favorite nonprofit will get some kind of marketing consideration. So if you get the customer's permission, you can ask them, hey, which of these nonprofits would you like to donate $20 for every person who sees this message that you're sharing and becomes one of our customers? Well, that $20 is much better than $250 or $300 that I'm charging for leads. But ultimately, it's another public relations connection, especially if you've gotten our program, the Charitable Marketing System. You can see exactly how that works. But let me also share with you how I do joint ventures or cooperative marketing campaigns to make this kind of strategy go even further. So I have a company that does a lot of electrical and plumbing and HVAC stuff for me. They do it for my properties. They do it for my personal home, and they've treated me pretty well. I've spent about $40,000 with them, so they, of course, treat me very well. I'm actually arranging a joint venture where I'm going to send out my endorsement letter. I'm going to offer a free gift. So the letter goes out. It offers a free gift. People raise their hand. The free gift is a plumbing inspection. Now, you can say plumbing inspection. You can't say electrical. The codes are different. This is a plumbing preventative problems inspection. And they come out and they check things like water pressure. They check for leaks around the hot water heater. They might put the camera in the hot water heater, that kind of stuff. You can do the same thing for electrical. Of course, don't call it an inspection. And we've already talked about those details. So this is the way the joint venture works. I write the letter. I'm very satisfied with their service. I also write a special report which tells the details of the problems I was facing. Now, I'm doing this with partnerships. I'm using somebody else's list in the area. I'm using Every Door Direct Mail. I'm doing this as a win-win-win for all the people involved, and I'm sending it out to about 500 to 600 of my neighbors. But the key here is that I send out a letter, somebody raises their hand, they get a short report that describes the problems that I faced. And this is the same formula you're going to use when you catch that testimonial. What are the problems the prospect faces? What are the possible solutions and what has gone wrong with those solutions? And then what is the solution that you provided, and why is that solution so important that they would recommend you as an electrician? So I build this report out, and then we send it. Now, I'm getting a spiff on the lead, and I also get a percentage of the gross sale because I'm doing all the work. So I'm paying for the letters, I'm paying for the special report. All they're providing is the coupon and scheduling the appointments. Now, when someone does this with you, you want to let them know when they've received the lead, and you're going to pay weekly for those leads. You're also going to let them know when you cut an estimate. You're going to provide them a copy of the estimate so they know what's at stake. And then finally, when the sale closes, you're going to provide them a copy of the sale closure form in redacting the customer's financial information. The reason you're doing this is so that they can track the gross commissions. It keeps you honest. And sometimes I do these joint ventures with 4 or 5 contractors in different regions who are non-competitive with each other. So I write the materials once, I use it many times. If you're going to do this and someone's going to write the materials for you, you want them to primarily write the letter, and then you want to have your own follow-up which you customize for their story. That might be a packaged piece that does not have your company information on it. So they make a request, they get an envelope, and instead of it being plastered with your company details, it's actually a personal letter from the person who introduced them to the electrician in the first place. But the way this system works, this endorsed mailing works, is you have person A contacting people just like person A, and they relate to each other, and then he's making a recommendation to you, who is the vendor who saved the day and solved their problems. The leads go back into your office, and of course you're paying out for the leads. If you're sending money to charity, you can make announcements about the charities that are benefiting from these people in a certain geographic region coming on board as new customers. And you can also build out some kind of recognition as you gain new customers to keep doing this over and over and over. From the customer's perspective, what happens is they receive letters from people in their own community who are just like them, who had problems with electrical issues, and now they have a solution with this provider. The provider is not mentioned in the original letter. The prospect has to raise their hand to get this report or this little kit, which then introduces some of the common problems people face with electric, and also the detailed case study and a coupon for the preventative or the initial review of their location. Now, this is so powerful, it actually even works with manufacturing facilities. If you've just done a bunch of commercial jobs, you can do the same thing with commercial jobs. But it's so exciting when you use something like this because it can be used for years to come. There's a certain way of writing these materials so that, you could have done a job for somebody in the 1970s and they're telling all their neighbors, as long as the person's alive, because then if they die, you have to change some of the tense. But ultimately, again, once you have permission to do this by using their likeness in a marketing campaign without paying them any royalties, but you may want to pay them some licensing and royalties. And you also get this campaign is structured. You're not just sending stuff out and hoping it happens. You're sending it out. You're measuring the responses. You're measuring the responses from the kit. You're measuring the dollar value of the transactions. But folks, this is so wildly profitable that you can take it from a neighborhood to a town, from a town to a city. And I'll give you a brief example of that before we wrap up. If I was to send the endorsed mailings to my neighbors in the city of Martinsville, okay, so 500 people in the city of Martinsville might be a little vague. So I could say I want to send to my neighbors in Forest Park or Druid Hills and name the community itself. Then later, if that campaign works well, I can expand it with letters from different people all across the city of Martinsville. Once you get more customers across the city of Martinsville, then you can say, hey, these are people all across Martinsville, Henry County. So you're now going into the county, then to the region, and you can just take this campaign and just keep redoing the same formula over and over and over and over again. When I help clients with this, they end up with a library of letters that they can just send out, and they can do every door direct mail, and they can do space advertisements in the local shopper. And rather than promoting their own company, they've got these blind ads out there that sometimes even other electrical contractors will respond to because they're just confused. Who is this electrical contractor who's doing such a great job helping all these customers? And they are often disappointed that it is their competitor who is eating their lunch. Anyway, if you've got questions about this or you need help implementing this kind of endorsement campaign, there are other endorsement campaign models that you might be interested in as well. You can contact us at www.commercialelectricalprofits.com. I'm Justin Hitt with the Commercial Electrical Profits podcast. If you have success stories about your own endorsed mailings, I'd love to hear those. I'm here to help you create and keep profitable customers and transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. And I've just shared with you a very powerful model for endorsed mailings. I hope you'll use it in your business today. Thanks for listening.